Okay, so for this, for the rest of the flowers, we're going to put just a basic color, and then we'll go back and start highlighting and putting some more detail on those flowers. So I have here Alizarin Crimson. Alizarin Crimson is a transparent color. That's the way it is. So whenever I want to work with red and I want to darken my red, I use Alizarin Crimson. So for this first layer of the red ones, I'm going to use Alizarin. And really what I'm going to do, this is like a flat or bright. What I'm going to do is go with the same movement, kind of. It doesn't have to be exactly the same because we're going to be highlighting, but it's better if it's in the same movement, the flower, the same shape. Follow the shape. You don't have to. You can just go in any direction you want. At this stage, we're just putting a color, a wash. But I always find it easier for me to remember, or as long as I can see the shape of the flower, it's easier. All right, perfect. That's it. That's all we want to do. All right. Next one is this one here. And if I want, this is more like a medium kind of color tone. So it's not really the dark, dark, and it's not the light, light. So it's perfect. I brought it into the peony because all I don't want the peony to look like it's round here, and there's actually a bit of a green here, which is nice. We'll put it after a green leaf. We'll fix the peony after. We'll go back to it once we put all of the other flowers and we put the highlights and the details. We'll go back and see if it needs to be adjusted. We'll adjust it, not fix it, adjust it. Right now, I'll show you something here. I know this is not red. It's like a dark green, but that's okay. I'm just putting it here for now. This peony right now, this color is right. It's sitting next to red. This is overwhelming, overpowering this. It's washed. It's washed out right now. It doesn't look good. I'll wait until I highlight this color, and then I need to go back. I would go back and adjust this peony after. But for now, that's why I'm trying to put all of these washes around before we start, before we go into details. Now this one here is a light pink, or like a fuchsia color. So I'm not gonna go red. I'm gonna use the same. But I'm gonna use a touch of white in it. Very, very small amount of white. whoever put this flower arrangement together was really looking at colors and how they go together. There's a touch of white in here. I'm gonna make, because I added white, my color is a bit opaque now, and I don't want it to be opaque. So I will go back and darken some areas in here. They need to be darkened, and they do. Stick some yellow. I would take, if possible, cadmium yellow medium. If you don't have cadmium yellow medium, cadmium yellow light is fine. Let's take a touch of that Alizarin Crimson, put it in that cadmium, and it will give us a very nice kind of an orangey color, which is perfect for what we're doing. If you look at those flowers, you can see that they are actually, the darks in the flowers is more like an orange. So the dark part. So let's, darks will always help us with the creating the shape when we start highlighting. This is so opaque, this color, but that's okay. I can still see a bit what's happening in there. rest is green. Which I think we should add that green right now. It will help us see the colors better, just for the first layer. So we did we, what, I can't remember what we did, what color we used to create, to get into, can't remember. Does anyone remember?
I wonder if it was a little bit of sap green, but I think it was definitely mixing blue and yellow.
It was cerulean blue and Naples yellow.
And
Naples yellow and cerulean. Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. You're right. All right. I'm using right now just sap green. Okay. And I'm going to take a bit of red. I'm going to put it in my sap green, and that will give me a really dark green. See how, because red is opposite green on the color wheel. So when they're opposite each other on the color wheel, you can use them to darken or to, so this is the color wheel. It's a complementary color. Green is opposite red on the color wheel. So when you mix them together, you will get you can darken your green, or you can make even a brown. It depends on how much the ratio is. If the ratio is equal, you'll get a brown. So usually what I do is I'm careful how much red I'm putting in my green, because I don't want it to get into brown. But now I'm using this green for the darkest greens, like the darker part. This is not the last. This is, of course, just wash. But it will help me look and see how the colors are looking together. How do I need to adjust anything? For now, it looks perfect, and the green will not look, I mean, the rest of the painting, the colors will not look like they're floating and they're harsh, because the green is a buffer. Comes in and it will kind of connect everything together. We usually do this when we are, that wash first. You do it when you are not following something that has been kind of this is a photo. It's most of the adjustment of colors is done already. But when you're painting from a still life, it's better if you put your colors together at the same time as a wash, because now I'm not comparing red to white next to it. I'm comparing red to green next to it. So it's easier for my eye to see. The red is not going to be popping and harsh because it's right next to a red. A green. So it's easier. Okay, I'm gonna go darken. So if I want to darken my green, and by the way, when you use green and red, you will get an olive color. I will go back to this later on, and when I start highlighting and shape them, make them look better. Okay. This peony definitely needs to be stronger as far as color. It's very washed out right now. Everything else around it is so strong. It's just kind of, it doesn't look good in here the way it is. Okay, go back to round. Just need a round here. So for this, we cannot work on those leaves unless we finish the flowers, the roses and the flowers, because they're in the back and the leaves are in the front. So right now it's just, we always, try to finish the ones in the back because it's harder to do detail behind. If I finish this one here, this leaf, green leaf, and I go back behind it to work on the rose or the flower behind, I'm going to wreck it. Like I'm going to go over that leaf again. And, so it's easier to finish what's in the back first and then come to the front. I'm just adding a bit of white to this combination here because these ones in the front are more like a mint green. So I am going to use the eventually, oh, this needs to be a bit lighter. Doesn't have to. Sometimes, you know, you don't need to go too dark if what you're seeing or looking at is light. It's really light. So you don't really go too dark. As long as you know that you have room to highlight if you need to. So I just added a bit of white to my green that has a touch of Alizarin Crimson. Okay, let's go back to dark. The ones inside. For now, I really don't have to worry about anything in there. Any detail in there for now with the green. I will highlight the detail to bring out the leaves. Okay, that's good. You know, I think this would have been really interesting if we worked on black gesso background.
Like the magnolia.
Yes, yes, because you can bring the leaves out easily with when you highlight them with the black gesso. All you have to do is just highlight them, and then they pop out.
Yeah, but it's so nice to look at a picture where the background is not dark.
You mean the background here?
Yes. Yeah, I'm just comparing this to the Magnolia project, and overall it was a dark mood behind the Magnolia.
Yes, but you can, yeah, not as yeah, you're right. It won't be easy. It won't be that easy to bring to make the background a soft pastel color when you're working on black gesso. It will have a different mood. It won't be the same feel. It will be a bit harsher maybe.
Yeah,
you're right. This is just sap green right now on these ones. I'm not using anything else because those flowers or leaves in there, they look like they have an interesting kind of green in there. So they're not dark, like it's a dark green, but it's not olive green. So just sap green is working very well with these ones. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop for a minute. Okay, for these leaves here, combination for now, first layer, sap green, cerulean blue, white. Don't go too much with the white, you know, try to do what I was doing right here. Try to put a little kind of a sample next to it to see how light you should go with the white, and a touch of that cadmium red medium, cadmium yellow medium that I have here. So let's do that. Let's just get the first layer going. This part is the part where everything looks awful. That's the way it is. And then, you know, when we continue working on it, and it becomes better and better. I'm adding a bit of white here. All right, go back, bring some green in. Now more green, darker a bit, because the ones in the back are darker. And we can always adjust the value later on. We're just placing those leaves right now. Okay. Now let's go for dark greens. Some red in my green again to darken it. pick up two colors together, two greens, and just put them in here randomly for now. Different greens. We're going to go back and adjust all these colors once we get to that detail. You know, I don't know if we should keep this part here. That looks a bit funny. Maybe we should
Like
just
the
continue.
ribbon,
Hmm?
ribbon.
Yeah, the ribbon. What do you think?
It's a transition between the stems and the bouquet itself and the flowers themselves. It's a
The-
transition. I think it's suitable to keep.
You think so?
I think so. That's my thought.
Okay.
In a vase, right?
Yes. There's a nice ribbon in there because the water, if you look at the painting, if you look at the vase, the water is right here, right here.
Yeah.
It doesn't go all the way up. It's interesting. It's different.
Putting it together, that's why. This-
Mhm. Yeah, we can keep it. Let's keep it. It's like a wedding bouquet, or you know. I just trying to get some different greens going here. We will work on that, on this a bit more later on, but just for now, because we have different greens here, so we can just kind of play around with our greens. There's a bit of red too. It's awesome. It's so beautiful. If you start looking at the different shades that you see in here of greens, and you can see some reds too in the stem. Hint of red. It's a red, it's a dark red in the green. Okay. Right, one more. We'll go to some greens, more greens. It's the same. I'm gonna go to the same green we did here or here. And did you say it's eucalyptus? What was it? Eucalyptus?
Yeah.
Okay. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful leaf. So it's I'm using right now sap green and cerulean blue, white, and we can leave it at that for now. So I'm going to go a bit lighter, but it's more blue actually. Then I'll get some more blue in here. Cerulean blue is very soft. It doesn't take over. So this is not the last, of course, it's not last layer. It's just putting some greens, and we will come back to this and adjust highlights. But when I see something that's not too dark, like a light green, I don't have to go too dark. I can use just that light green in here, as long as I have room for highlights to adjust later on. All right. Okay. Just more dark green in here. Just gonna bring sap green into the greens I was using here, and then just kind of give them this a little bit of a dark. I'll go back to it later on if I want to change it. For now, it looks good. Okay. That's all about texture in here right now. Different textures. Oh, that's too much light. Okay. Okay. Okay, for these flowers in the back, because they are so delicate and white and soft, and the leaves are strong in front, like the color is very strong. So what I'm going to do, instead of using this kind of a whitish color in the back, I'm going to use for the first layer a combination of titanium buff. That's the main color, titanium buff. So I'm going to put a bit of alizarin in it, just a very tiny amount of alizarin. And I'm looking at this base in here, the bottom of the flower, like the inside, not inside, the bottom part, this part. And I'm using just alizarin crimson in certain areas with titanium buff. More titanium buff, not a lot of alizarin crimson. Even if it looks darker and that's not the color that we want, but that's okay because we want to highlight after. We want to be able to highlight this. Actually, this is really nice. And then in certain areas, if I see a bit of more yellow, I would pick up titanium buff, touch of Naples yellow in it. And I'm just going to put it in there, put that combination in there. So it gives me a good base for any highlights, and it doesn't look like the flowers are too white. Now for the dark areas right here, I'm using raw umber with a bit of titanium buff. So I'm going to do the same. Actually, I like the combination of titanium buff with alizarin crimson. So it's like a very, it's a light color, but it's not too light. So it's a great base. See, like right now, between before and now, those greens in here don't look too harsh anymore. because we do have a color, we do have a something, some kind of a color. It's not white, only white. Now, it doesn't mean that we can, that's it, that's the color we're using, but it is, we are going to highlight it, and we're going to highlight a bit, but already it looks better. It looks much better already. Much better. I like that. It's good. Okay, so these flowers here, we're going to darken them. So I'm using the titanium buff here, and I'm putting some green in it, and a touch of alizarin crimson in here. So this is awesome. This is going to give me a beautiful dark color that for the flowers, the light flowers, and I'll show you where they are. I think it's best to do it that way. Okay, so it's more like an olive green color, and it's right here, these ones. See how as soon as I put this color right now, they're not floating anymore. They're like heavy and beautiful, and once I start highlighting them, they will look fantastic. Here we go. This is the same color. So it's titanium buff, alizarin crimson, and I have a kind of a touch of raw umber in here, very, very little. I think it's really best that we add these dark colors first so we can highlight. And once we start highlighting, we can actually see the highlight, and it will look really good. Now in the back, there are more flowers in the back, but they're like in the far. Let's make them a bit more with titanium buff and alizarin crimson, touch of alizarin crimson in here, because we can always highlight this. But we can't highlight if there's nothing to highlight. This is the same flowers that we did last week in pink. This is pink right now, but it's more like a pink that it's titanium buff instead of white with the alizarin crimson. Once we start seeing some detail, it will look really good. If you're happy with this, and if you've done it in a different way, keep it. I'm just going to adjust it a bit. I think it's just a bit too weak right now, too light right now. So what I'm going to do is instead of using white, this is ultramarine violet, alizarin crimson, and I'm going to use titanium buff. I like the titanium buff for the first layer. Christine, did you use raw umber or burnt umber when you started? I can't remember. Was it raw umber for the first layer?
For that,
Or the peony?
it was a mix of all those Zorn palette colors except white.
Oh,
We had
okay.
Payne's gray in it too, right?
Yeah,
Oh, you had Payne's gray in it.
but I think I always opt for raw umber
Raw umber, yeah.
generally. I don't know, I just like that color.
Yes, me too. Yeah. I'm just gonna give it a bit of more. This is Alizarin Crimson, and I'm just playing around with these, like adding a bit of more. So that looks much better right now. Because once I started putting the greens and the red right next to it, it just looked too washed out, too weak,
Pale. Mhm.
right?
Yeah. I think so.
I can't tell the shape of these petals in here because it's so light. We might leave them like that. I mean, not highlight it too much, like what we see in that. We'll just highlight the tip of the petal, but instead of the whole thing. All right, that's much better. We'll highlight it later on when we start highlighting the rest. Okay. This is titanium buff, and I'm using Alizarin Crimson. Round brush. See, if I leave this the way I had it before, which is like a light wash of pink, there's no room for highlights at all. There's no room for depth. This way, I can easily highlight it and put, you know, the darks in as well. There, I have room to highlight.